Okay, can you all hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, can.
Okay, 1 minute, I'll share my screen.
Yes.
Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Fine. We did finish most of coordination. We actually finished the supplement material, but what is left is some of the core material, and the core material is still very important. So I'm going to start straight away. I'm going to move in order to make sure that I did not miss anything. We did define, or we did mention, that coordination is when all the body organs are connected together, and coordination is maintained by two systems in the body, the nervous system and the endocrine system. Okay, so this is done. And we did say that the nervous system is made up of the central and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord, if you remember, and the peripheral nervous system includes the nerves that come out of the brain and the spinal cord. We did talk about the basic structure of the nerve cell, and we know that it is a specialized nerve cell. Quick revision. This is the cell body. These are branches that receive the impulses. They're called dendrites. And where did it go? And we have part of the nerve cell that carries the impulses away called the axon. You need to know those parts. The axon, when it is long, it is covered by cells that are called Schwann cells or myelin sheath. They are cells that contain fat. And you're not requested now to know their name. You only need to know that because this cell is specialized, it has this structure and this shape, so that the impulses can travel very quickly through the nerve cell. And no other cell in the body has the same function or the same shape. Now, the axon is surrounded by fat cells or myelin sheaths that cause the impulses to jump. So this jumping makes the impulses travel very quickly. The end of the axon is called the nerve ending. Okay? Now, we said that the nervous system is divided into the central, made up of the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral, which is made up of the nerves coming out of the brain and the nerves coming out of the spinal cord. The three nerve cells, or the three different types, are very important to identify. The sensory nerve cell is very easy to identify because the cell body is in the center. It looks exactly like this. It's very easy to draw also. The cell body is protruding in the middle of the cell body or the cell structure. So this is the sensory nerve cell. At one end, it has the nerve ending or the receptor. The receptor is the sensory nerve ending that receives impulses and initiates a electric response. Now, this is the smallest nerve cell, and it has no fats along the axon, and it is totally found inside the central nervous system. It is totally found inside the brain and the spinal cord. This nerve cell, the smallest one, the shortest one, what is it called? Who will remind me?
Really?
The relay. Yes, wake up with me. Okay, this is the relay. And the traditional one, the one that we already know, that has the basic shape with the cell body at one end and the axon terminal at the other end. This is the motor neuron. Sensory nerve cell carries impulses from the sense organs to the central nervous system, to the brain and spinal cord. The interneuron, or the relay, connects the sensory with the motor, and the motor neuron From the name, it carries impulses from the brain and the spinal cord to the effector, and the effector is either a muscle or a gland that will produce a response. So we are revising together. I hope all this is clear. We talked about the motor neuron. Of course, the motor neuron will carry the motor impulse. The relay neuron will carry the relay impulse. There is no difference between the impulse. It's just we are giving it names to identify the impulse is carried by which cell. So all the impulses are the same. We did talk about the sensory and the motor and the relay to make sure that nothing is missed. And a stimulus, they will not ask you directly what is a stimulus. Maybe they would in year 9, but not in year 10. But you are definitely supposed to understand what it means so that you can understand the lesson. A stimulus is a change in your environment, whether internal or external change. A reflex action, this is what's important, okay? A reflex action is an automatic action, an action that is not under the control of the brain, like blinking, like stepping on a hot object, stepping on a sharp object, and quickly removing your foot. This is reflex. Like the lens accommodation, which was supplement, and what we will take today, the pupil reflex. Now, we studied this in class in detail, just very quick revision. The journey of the impulse in this situation is SRME. This is the easiest way to remember. S is the stimulus. R are the receptors, the sensory nerve endings that are found in this case in the skin. The skin is one of the sense organs. The S is the activation of the sensory nerve cell. The sensory nerve cell will carry the impulse from the sense organ, from the skin to the central nervous system, to the brain or the spinal cord. This is the sensory nerve cell. Here, the cell body is in the middle. And then R is the activation of the relay nerve cell. Here is the relay. M is the activation of the motor nerve cell. And then E is the effector, which is the muscle or the gland that will produce an response. And this is the simple picture, the one that I used with you in class. Okay, this is what we talked about. Now, talking about voluntary and involuntary actions. Again, I'm sure I explained what these actions mean. Which one of them are automatic and not controlled by the brain, the voluntary or the involuntary?
Involuntary.
The involuntary actions. Okay, we took the journey of the involuntary actions in general, which is the SRME. We just revised it now. And we took the accommodation of the lens in class. But what we did not take and we left for later is the pupil reflex. We'll take it now. Pupil reflex is exactly what you see in this picture. This is the response of your pupil in response to light. Now, if you want to remember again the anatomy of the eye, I'm going to do it for you quickly. We said the eye, we have a half circle, and then we have a bigger half circle. This bigger half circle, the posterior part of the eyeball, is made up of 3 layers. It's good that we are revising because this lesson is one of the longest lessons, and the anterior is 2 layers. We said the very first layer that contains the photosensitive or the light sensitive cells is the retina. The retina contains the rods that are sensitive to dim light and the cones that are sensitive to colored or bright light. The cones are concentrated in part of the retina known as the fovea. I'm helping you remember. I have here an optic nerve that will carry the impulses from the light sensitive cells to the brain. Okay, and right in front of the optic nerve, I don't have any light sensitive cells, so that part is known as the blind spot. We are remembering together. Okay, now, where is the iris? Here is the lens, if you remember. Here we have a ciliary muscle that controls the thickness of the lens. And out of the ciliary muscle, I have the suspensory ligaments that hold the lens in place. And with the ciliary muscle, so in case you forgot, we explained this in detail in class, and this part is supplement and very important. Where is my... Yes, this is there. So this is the ciliary muscle. And here is the suspensory ligament that will hold it in place. And this is my lens. Now we discussed this part, the lens accommodation in class in detail. This is very important. This is supplement, and this is also an example of a reflex action. This is something that you cannot control. It's involuntary. Now, what will we study today? Out of the ciliary muscle, there's another muscle like this that is the colored part of the eye. Who will remind me what this muscle is? The colored part of the eye that controls the diameter of the pupil.
Iris.
The iris, very good. Now, this is what we will discuss today. The iris, we will study the iris and how it controls pupil reflex or the diameter of the pupil, okay? Now, again, to remind you, we have light coming from far away. The light will come in straight lines and it will reach the cornea, the transparent window at the front of the eye. This cornea is going to make the light what? Refract or bend to fall on the lens, and at the lens it will bend some more, and actually at the lens will help in focusing the light. Focus the light to fall on the fovea. This is if you have perfect vision. Now, the iris here, where's the picture? Where did the picture go? Yes, now the iris is a muscle. This iris is actually made up of two muscles in one. Let me draw it also because drawings make life easy. This is your eye, okay? This is your iris, and this is your pupil. This is the white part of the eye that is called the sclera, if you remember, that helps in protection. And this is the iris, the colored part of the eye. This iris is made up of two muscles, the radial muscles and the circular muscles. Before we start, we have to emphasize that these two muscles are antagonistic. In other words, they work in opposite directions. And these muscles, they have only one function, to control the diameter of the pupil. Now, how does this happen? There are two situations. Either when you are stepping in very bright light or very dim light. Okay? It's very, very easy. Now, in bright light, what happens? We will start with the circular muscles. We always start with the circular muscles. The circular muscles, what happens to it? It's a muscle. So like any muscle, it can contract and it can relax. When you are stepping into a room that is very bright, that has bright light, or you are in the sun, the circular muscles will contract. Contract means it will narrow, 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 and become very small, making the diameter of the pupil very narrow. Number one, the circular muscles will contract, and the radial muscles are antagonistic. So what happens to the radial muscles? What do you think if the circular muscles contract? Very good. The radial muscles, why did they call it radial? Because it radiates out of the circular muscles. These are the circular muscles. Let me change color. These are the circular muscles here. They are circular, and these muscles that radiate out are the radial muscles. Always start with the circular muscles. In bright light, we want the diameter of the pupil to be very narrow. Why? So that less light falls on the retina, so we do not damage the retina. It's a protective action. So the circular muscles will contract. And the radial muscles, what will happen to the radial muscles? One of you just said it. The radial muscles will what?
Relax.
Relax. That's it. Now, why is this done? So less light falls on the retina, so we do not damage the retina. Okay, now there's another situation. Let's say you are, again, this is your beautiful eye here, and your iris, which is the colored part of the eye. An iris is a muscle that is made up of two muscles. We have the circular muscles and the radial muscles that control the diameter of the pupil. You step into a dark room, dim light. Now, what do you expect the size of your pupil to be? To be narrow or wide?
Wide.
Wide. So very good. Let's start with the circular muscles. Your circular muscles, what do you expect? They will contract or relax?
Relax.
Okay, nice and easy. They will relax so that they relax. They fall backwards. You can think of them like this. And when they relax, what happens to the radial muscles? They will contract or relax?
They
So
contract.
that's it. Yes, very good. So the circular muscles will relax and they will become wider, okay? And the radial muscles will contract because they are antagonistic. When the radial muscles contract, by the way, they pull the circular muscles and they make it wider. So now your pupil is very wide. You have a wide pupil so that as much light can enter into your eyes and you are trying to see as best as you can. So this is called the pupil reflex. I think I have a nicer picture somewhere here. This is the synapse. We're done with that. Where is it? Where is it? It will come soon, hopefully. Yes. Now, this is a very simple picture. You have it in your notes. It's simple and clear, showing you the circular muscles and the radial muscles. And this is the iris altogether. And here is the pupil. These are the circular muscles. They're called circular because they are circular. The radial muscles, they radiate out of the circular muscles. They're antagonistic. There are two situations. Okay? Your eyes are always looking like this, by the way, but you don't notice. Whether you step into a bright room or a dark room. Fine? Okay, this is a slower picture. Now here, the diameter of the pupil is increasing. So here you stepped into a dark room or into a light room?
Dark room.
Dark room. Okay, dark room, circular muscles will relax, radial muscles will contract so that your pupil, as you can see here, will become wider so that more light enters the eye. Nice and easy. Fine? Now, this is the only part that we had left in the nervous system. I'll go back to the beginning of the slides so that I don't skip anything. Just be patient with me and I'll let you go when everything's done. Okay, we were here. So the pupil reflex, I hope it's clear now. Good. Types of neurons, this is covered. The nerve impulse. In case you are asked for a definition, and I think you saw it in paper 4, it's a definition out of 2 marks. Now, why 2 marks? Because the definition is that it is an electric signal. Electric is 1 mark. You need to mention the nature of the impulse that is carried along the nerve cells. Okay? That is why it is 2 marks. And we talked about it in detail. The sensory, you also have this diagram, cell body in the center, motor, and the relay. I think, and we talked about the synapse in detail. Anyone has any questions? We're done with the nervous system. We have a few things left in the hormonal system. The nervous system, any questions? Do you want me to repeat anything? You want me to explain anything? Is everything clear? Is the synapse clear? Okay. If no one is asking me questions, then I hope everything's clear. Please, this lesson is a little bit advanced. It needs understanding. You understand it, everything is nice and clear. You don't, you'll find it very difficult to study. Okay, all this is done.
Miss,
Yes, my dear.
can you please repeat the synapse parts?
Of course I can. Okay. Now, when you're studying the synapse, first ask yourself, what is it? It is the meeting point between the 2 nerve cells. How the impulse will travel between 2 nerve cells. You can study it in 5 minutes. Draw the presynaptic nerve cell or the nerve cell before the synapse, and then the postsynaptic nerve cell, which is the nerve cell after the synapse. This is the synapse, that space. It's called the synapse or the synaptic space or the synaptic cleft. In the presynaptic nerve cell, I have vesicles, containers that contain what? Who will remind me? They contain neurotransmitters. Okay. And in the postsynaptic nerve cell, I have complementary, what are these?
Receptors.
Receptors. That's it. Okay, we will start by the arrival of an impulse. The impulse will arrive. When they arrive, what do they activate? I don't know what's going on, but when they arrive, what do they activate? They activate the what will move? The vesicles. So number 1, we have the arrival of the impulse. This is going to activate to the vesicles. When the vesicles are activated, they fuse with the what? What is happening here?
They fuse with the cell membrane.
Very good. They fuse with the cell membrane of the presynaptic nerve cell, releasing the neurotransmitter so that it will diffuse along the synaptic cleft. And then point 4, they will bind with the complementary
Receptor.
They bind with the complementary receptors, and when this is successful, this will generate an impulse in the postsynaptic nerve cell. So this point, which is common, this is answered in 5 steps. Now, the last thing that you have to mention is that the neurotransmitter does not remain attached to the receptor forever. It has to break so that we don't have a continuous impulse, and it will be broken by enzymes. Either the neurotransmitter will be broken and we will produce new neurotransmitters, or it will go back to the presynaptic nerve cell to be reused. Okay? And when scientists, they understood how the synapse works, they made or created medicine or drugs that affects the transmission of impulse at the synapse. Either those drugs are stimulants or depressants. You don't need to know this part, but usually they get you graphs and questions comparing two drugs and they explain it. So it's nice to have it or to know it in advance. Okay, whoever was asking, is everything clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Now, examples of involuntary actions. This is core. Still, core is important. Please, core should not be ignored. Usually in paper 4, they ask you one question, 1 or 2, core, that is out of 4 marks. So that's a lot. And unfortunately, I don't know which question will pop up, so we cannot ignore it. So examples of involuntary actions, if you think about those actions, you will realize that these actions cannot be controlled, like blinking, coughing, pupil reflex, we just revised it or took it, and knee-jerk, any reflex action that happens in your head also is not under the control of the brain. Features of any reflex actions are very quick, they're involuntary, I cannot control them, they're very, very specific, okay? They reach to a very specific part of the body, very coordinated, and they are there to protect you. They're always there to protect you from pain or from harm, and they reduce the harm and the pain. Sense organs, we studied only the skin and the eye. We studied the eye and the skin, but you have many sense organs. We studied the skin and how it controls body temperature, and we studied the eye, how to control the thickness of the lens or lens accommodation, and how to control the diameter of the pupil. But we have many sense organs. We have 5. Sense organs are organs that contain many receptors, and they respond to specific stimuli. In your tongue and in your nose, you have chemical receptors, okay, that detect smell and taste. Okay, I think this is very easy. We revised skin, tongue, nose. I think you don't even need a biology class to know that your ear has sound receptors and your eye has light receptors. Okay, we discussed the eye, we discussed everything. Nothing is missing. This is finished. Accommodation, we mentioned that in class. So we're done with the nervous system. Hormonal system. Now the hormonal system also, we finished the important part. What is the core part? Number 1, very easy, hormonal system or the endocrine system. Or the endocrine system. From the name, it is a system that releases hormones. Number 1, what is a hormone? You need to know the definition of a hormone. The hormone is a chemical that is produced from an organ called the gland that affects a specific target organ. And why does it affect a specific target organ? Because this specific target organ has complementary receptors. Now, this is the definition. We need to understand it. What is the hormone? Now, I will give you the insulin as an example because we studied it very well. The insulin hormone is a hormone that is produced by the pancreas. So the pancreas will be our gland. And the insulin hormone is produced when the glucose levels are high, and its function is to lower the glucose levels in the blood. Now, this insulin hormone, it will go and target which cells in your body, now that you know the action of the insulin hormone. What are the cells in your body that will be targeted by the insulin hormones? Liver. Very good. Liver. The liver cells will be affected by the insulin hormones because the liver, when they receive the insulin is going to activate enzymes in the liver so that the liver takes this excess glucose and store it as what? Store it as glycogen. Very good. So we are studying the basics of the hormonal system. We finished the hard part and we're going back to the easy part. The hormonal system is a system that is depending on hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that are produced by glands. These hormones, by the way, are carried by the blood All these are keywords, and they are, or they target specific organs. These organs are, or they have complementary receptors. If the organ does not have a complementary receptor to the hormone is not going to affect this organ. Okay, so this is the definition of the hormone. 1 minute. Just going to open another PowerPoint for the hormonal system. Okay, this is what we started with the definition of the hormones. The definition is important. I think I saw it in paper 4 out of 3 marks. Hormones, these are chemicals that are produced by a gland. That's why it's in bold, because it's one of the keywords, carried by the blood to affect specific target organs. And these target organs are target because they have complementary receptors, and excess hormones are broken down by the liver and excreted by the kidneys. We will take excretion next class. Now, we studied the hormonal system and the nervous system. We need to compare. Comparing the hormonal system and the nervous system is very important, and I think it's very easy. Now, without looking at this table, if we will compare the nervous system and the hormonal system, can you tell me or compare between the nature of the impulse, which system sends an electric impulse, the nervous or the hormonal?
Nervous.
Nervous. So the nervous system, electric impulse. And the hormonal, quickly,
Chemical.
chemical impulse. Very good. Now, which system sends impulses or sends the message via nerve cells?
The nervous system.
Nervous system. Okay, nerve cells carry the message. Now, the hormonal system. Who carries the hormone or the chemical?
The
The
blood.
blood.
The blood. Very nice. Okay, I hope you get a question like this. That's so easy. Now, which system leads to a very rapid release?
Nervous.
The nervous
Nervous.
system. Rapid release of impulse. In other words, the message is quickly released. And the hormonal system, what do you think? Rapid release or slow release?
Slow.
Slow release. Now, if you want to understand more, think of the growth hormone. This growth hormone is produced by the brain, and it affects you for years. If you realize, the growth hormone is produced by the brain since you are a child, and it keeps on affecting you until you reach 18 or 21. So the hormonal system or the endocrine system releases the hormones very, very, very slowly, but the effect of the hormone can last for years. So I'm going to go back and ask you, which system gives you a very slow response?
Hormonal system.
The hormone. So slow release and slow response. Nice and easy. The nervous is the exact opposite. Rapid release and rapid response. Okay, I think it's very easy to compare. Which one is very localized? Specific response, nervous or hormonal?
Nervous.
Nervous, okay, so it's very localized. And which one is generalized? It can have an effect on several organs in the body.
Hormonal.
Hormonal, so it's generalized. Again, think of the growth hormone. When it is released, it does not only make your arm grow, it makes your arms and your legs and your whole body to grow. So the hormones are produced slowly, slow release, and they take a very long time to act, slow response, and they have a general action. They affect general or several organs in the body. They're carried by the blood. They're chemical in nature because they are hormones. They are produced by glands. This is the comparison, and you have a nice table here that will compare between, that will compare between the hormonal and the endocrine system. Okay, now, hormones that have a long-term effect are the hormones produced by the endocrine system, and the short-term effects are the nervous system. There is a hormone that we need to discuss so that we're done with all the core, which is the adrenaline hormone. Now, if the Zoom cuts off, I'm going to join again, okay? I'm just telling you. The adrenaline hormone. The adrenaline hormone is a hormone that is produced by a gland known as the adrenal gland. This adrenal gland, you need to know where is it located. It is located above your kidneys. You have two kidneys, so you have two adrenal glands. Now you need to know the action of the adrenaline hormone. I think you already do. Who has an idea about the action of the adrenaline hormone? What does the adrenaline hormone do? When is it released? Let me ask an easier question. When you're relaxed or when you're scared?
During flight or
Scared or in
fighting.
dangerous situations.
Very good. Adrenaline is released when you're fighting. Think of yourself, remember yourself in a fight. When you're scared in a fight or flight situation. So tell me, think of your heart rate. Is your heart rate faster or slower?
Faster.
Faster. So it increases your heart rate. Think of your breathing rate. Do you breathe faster or slower?
Faster.
Faster.
Faster. So it increases your breathing rate. Think of your sweat glands. Your sweating increases or decreases?
Increases.
Increases.
More sweating. Very good. Think of your glucose levels in the blood. Do you think it provides you with glucose or less glucose?
More.
More
Yes,
glucose.
it increases glucose concentration in the blood. It has the same action as glucagon, if you remember. Something else, the pupil, it causes pupil dilation. It dilates your pupil, your eyes are wide, or it constricts your pupil.
Wide.
Yes, wide pupil. And it makes you alert and focused. So adrenaline is the hormone that is released when you're scared, when you're in a fight, when you are in a dangerous situation. And think of yourself, imagine yourself in this situation. And this is what the adrenaline does. Increases your heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, makes your pupil wide, increases the glucose concentration in the blood, and it is produced by the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland is a very complicated gland. Thank God that's the only thing you will study about it. And after the situation is over, the adrenaline hormone goes back to the normal levels. Okay, now a quick reminder of the negative feedback and the homeostasis. This is important. Homeostasis, what is the definition? Quickly.
Maintenance of an internal body environment.
Yes, homeostasis is to maintain a constant internal body environment within set limits. This is the definition. Now, the mechanism, which is actually very close, is called the negative feedback. So anytime you provide an example for homeostasis, this is how it is written. For example, we studied how the skin maintains blood temperature at 37 degrees. After you finish explaining what the skin does, you write the final sentence. This is an example of homeostasis by negative feedback. This is how it is written. This is how it is expressed. Okay, so homeostasis is maintaining things within set limits. Now, the steps that are done to maintain things within a set limit is the by negative feedback. So we took actually several examples and we want to memorize them. Number one, glucose levels. And you need to elaborate. We took everything we need to regulate glucose levels back to normal. This is an example of homeostasis by negative feedback. Maintaining skin or body temperature at 37 degrees. We took a lot of things that the skin does to maintain body temperature at 37 degrees. Actually, they were summarized into C, if you remember. C to the power of 3EA. C, shunt vessels, shivering, or skeletal muscle action when you either shiver or you don't shiver. And the other S, what was it? We said shunt vessels, skeletal muscles, and the other, or the third S was sweating or you don't sweat, you don't study. E is the action of the erector pili muscle. Either it contracts or not to make your hair stand up or lie flat. A is the action of the arterioles. These arterioles, whether they undergo vasodilatation or vasoconstriction, remember? All this is an example of homeostasis by negative feedback. Okay, and we also took the example of maintaining the carbon dioxide levels in the body. The brain will detect when the carbon dioxide levels are high. The brain will respond by increasing the breathing rate so that the carbon
And the
dioxide
depth.
levels go back to normal. Okay, so you studied those 3 examples in detail in your syllabus. All those 3 plus many, many others are examples of homeostasis by negative feedback. Okay, is it clear? And we also took the different hormones controlled in the menstrual cycle. Any hormonal regulation in your body is controlled by homeostasis by negative feedback. Now, also this lesson summarizes all the hormones that you studied throughout the syllabus, okay? And it's in a nice table in your notes. Adrenaline, now you know that the adrenaline is the fight or the flight hormone. The adrenaline, remember yourself when you are fighting. Increase in heart rate, increase in breathing rate, your pupil is wide, increase in the glucose in the body so that you have energy for muscle contraction. Insulin, I'm sure now you're very familiar with it. Insulin will lower glucose levels by doing 3 things. If you remember, it will go to the liver and the muscle cells and increase the glucose uptake so that it is used in respiration. And it will go to the liver cells and activate enzymes in the liver so that the liver takes the excess glucose and store it as glycogen. Or if this is not enough, it will go to the skin and will tell the skin, please take this excess glucose because you don't stop eating chocolate and this glucose will be stored as fats, okay? And also high glucose levels will lower the glucagon levels because insulin needs to lower the glucose levels. The glucose levels are very high. Glucagon increases glucose levels. We don't want the glucose level to increase. It's already very high. And this is also another example of homeostasis by negative feedback. Testosterone. Testosterone, of course, you know that it is produced in males, responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics, production of sperms, etc., etc. Estrogen does the same in females, and it controls also, it plays a role in the menstrual cycle. Now we're done with adrenaline. We said all this: increased sweating, contraction of blood vessels, increase blood supply to the brain because we want to focus, and it reduces blood supply through the digestive system. For example, we can digest the food later after the fight. And we will provide more glucose to the blood. It has the same action as glucagon, more breathing rate, more heart rate, dilation of pupil. Any questions? And we talked about all these hormones. I think I'm done. And then you have a summary here of the pancreas. Now you are in a stage where you should group all the lessons together. You can have a question that will group all the lessons together. Pancreas, for example, you studied pancreas in the digestive system and in the hormonal system. So you should know what it does here and what it does here. You should know how the pancreas helps in digestion and also how it regulates glucose levels. Fine? Anyone has any questions? Okay, I think I'm finished. I'm finally finished with all the core and the supplement. Let's answer this question together. The diagram shows part of the mechanism that controls blood sugar concentration. Okay, you have the liver here and you have the pancreas. A person does 1 hour of exercise. So before I move on, when he is exercising, the glucose levels in the blood will increase or decrease?
Decrease.
Decrease.
Decrease. So glucose will drop. So what is the hormone that is going to be released to raise the glucose levels back to normal?
Glucagon hormone.
Very
Glucagon.
good. Excellent. So we will start with 5. Okay, so the answer should be A or B. It should not be C or D. C, because you understand the question, you'll find the answer very easy. Now, A says 5 followed by 3 followed by 2. Let's see. 5 more glucagon is released. Okay. 3 more glycogen in the liver. Is this correct? More glycogen or less
No.
glycogen? No,
Less glycogen.
less. So let's look at B. B should be the right one. 5 more glucagon is released, and then 4, let's see what 4 says. Yes, less glycogen in the liver. So B has to be the answer. Okay? So understanding is key to find things easy. Okay, now I'm happy. I revised what is the definition of the hormone, and